if you have ever asked yourself why a certain game does not get published in your country, like in the case of this particular Xbox title in Korea, it's very often about what I call the 70% rule. But before diving into that, a quick self-introduction. Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Todo speaking. I'm a game industry consultant, primarily based in Singapore and Tokyo, with around 15 years of professional experience in this business. And if you like to follow me, you can do so under the social links that I put in the video description. And also very important, please understand this video is purely educational and not financial advice in any way. There's, generally speaking, a whole list of reasons why certain games do not get published in certain regions of the world. So it can be licensing issues, it can be publishing issues, a fear of piracy, it can be server costs that are maybe too high, it can be problematic imagery, like a studio thinking that the game in question is too violent, too sexy, maybe offensive to religion even, politically risky, etc., etc. What you can see here is a promotional trailer for the mobile version of PUBG in India, where the local government essentially forced the local operator of this app to shut it down back in 2020 because it was made by Tencent in China. And in this particular case, the game was just republished by the same IP holder, Krafton, but based out of South Korea just 1 year later. And the game has been running in India without any big problems and actually very successfully since. And the main reason why a certain game does get published in one country, whereas it doesn't get published in another one is, and this is not a big surprise, money. It's all about market size, right? It's, for instance, about the number of paying users, the ARPU, the average revenue per user in the case of mobile apps, and financial variables of that nature when it comes to making a decision where exactly to publish certain games. And one kind of like shortcut for this thinking is the 70% rule. The 70% rule is not some kind of industry benchmark or lingo or something like that, but more of kind of like a personal term that I came up with to highlight the fact that the top 3 markets of China, the United States, and Japan alone make up roughly 70% of the global gaming market. And what you see here is industry data provider Newzoo's list of top countries by gaming revenue. So shout out to Newzoo for providing data like that for free. And over the years, that 70% number has come down somewhat. It's more kind of like 64% or 65% for 2024. So please bear with me a little bit in that regard. It was really more like 70% in the last couple of years. But you can still safely say that the vast majority of gaming revenue in the world comes from this trifecta alone. So game executives, especially when they work for a scaled company, and when they want to think big, are of course heavily incentivized to prioritize just these 3 markets because this is where the revenue is. Right, so these 3 countries are followed by another block of 3 markets, namely South Korea, Germany, and the United Kingdom, that generate $6 to $7 billion each. These are big markets still, right? And South Korea is, the example that I showed at the beginning of the video, where Microsoft said that localizing their Xbox title Outer Wilds 2 at the recording of the video was apparently not worth it. And even though South Korea is, as you can see here, the world's number 4 gaming market, Microsoft is not going apparently to localize that particular title for the local user base. And this block is followed by France, Canada, and Italy and Mexico that complete the top 10. So if you put all of these top 10 countries together, they actually make up over 80% of the entire global gaming market, which Newzoo says was worth around $178 billion last year. So you can say that the other 185 countries that we have in the world generate less than 20% of that number. So this is why typically Not always, but typically game industry executives think in terms of market size and revenue. So that's why even the biggest country that we have in the world in terms of population, India or Indonesia, with that gets closer to 300 million people, or the entire continent of Africa or Southeast Asia, are not represented in this list, and regularly get snubbed in one way or the other by some of the game companies that we have out there. The consequences of the 70% rule and what it stands for, namely the focus on revenue and the market size, include inconveniences like the one that you can see on the screen here, where Sony does not offer The Last of Us 2 in the Philippines, for example. So you can see right here that particular country is blocked in the case of this game. The point that I'm trying to make is, do you think that Sony would do this if the Philippines was a $20 billion gaming market? Of course not. They would find a way, provided there are no legal hurdles or other hurdles that I mentioned earlier. And as a quick side note, this particular game is available in Brazil, a country that traditionally is a big headache for a lot of video game companies because of the tariff policies for physical goods that affect video game companies that want to do business there. And interestingly enough, on the Steam platform, it's no problem for Sony to offer that particular game in that jurisdiction. And I do understand that users in the countries affected always have certain ways to lay their hands on games that are not officially published there, but that is a completely different topic. Final note on mobile, because this has been always a big concern for mobile gaming fans that live in certain parts of the world that don't get the games that they want officially in their own official app stores. And on mobile, studios do not expect enough in-app purchases or ad revenue to be high enough in certain countries, and the release is a no-go. So the 70% rule also applies on that platform, maybe even more so than on any other platform that we have in gaming. And I can see it myself every day, right? So where the number one grossing mobile app in a developing country in 1 month literally makes only a fraction of what the number one app in the United States, for instance, makes in 1 day, right? And typically ad revenue from developing countries, from mobile games that are published there, it's not worth it. Because advertisers in these countries, even inside the most populous that you can imagine, usually do not pay enough. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you at the next one.